welcome to our last day of Summer Naturalist Camp, day 5. We saved the best for last. As far as animals, blue-green algae we'll touch on at the end of the day, I promise. Phylum Arthropoda, Greek arthron, join, plus podos, foot. The most successful group of animals on the planet. You got a lot of notes, so I'll give you a minute. Go ahead, get started. All right, so you guys did good getting through all the notes. We saved the best and the longest for last. Phylum Arthropoda. It is the largest group of animals on the planet. They have certain characteristics that join them all together. Of course, their name talks about jointed foot. Arthropedic surgery. Oh, my knee. They all have some form of jointed appendage, and their main characteristics are they're segmented. Earthworms are segmented, but earthworms do not have the appendages that you see here in these wonderful group of animals. Those segments, sometimes they come together as far as tagmata. How many tagmatas are there in an insect body parts? 3 or 2? Say it loud, I'm proud. 3. Head, thorax, abdomen. But that's many segments form the head, segments form the thorax, and then segments are grouped together. The somates are fused, they would say. But they all have segments, they all have exoskeletons made of chitin. We will get to the arachnids in a minute, class Arachnida. But spiders, everybody loves spiders. Most people have no fear of spiders. Most people wake up every morning like, oh, please, spider, be up in my ceiling so I can watch you. Or, yeah, there's a great fear of spiders around the world. With that being said, some of it's kind of just, you gotta be careful with them. Not so much the spiders we have, but all spiders, to get to the characteristics, they have exoskeletons made of chitin. Chitin happens to be the most undigestible substance biologically made on the planet. Spiders eat lots of things that are made of chitin, mainly insects. And so a spider, instead of consuming the insect and having to digest, which it can't, chitin, which means having to pass that out of its body, they bite into what they're going to eat, inject venom. Venom is a substance that helps animals to obtain, consume, and digest food. And then once that venom liquefies what's within that exoskeleton, then they come and go. So today, we're going to all practice being spiders for lunch. You're going to take your sandwich, we're going to put it in a bowl, we're going to inject it with venom, and then you're going to come back and take a straw and go. Sound good? So that's how spiders eat. Thus, because they are venomous, there are 2 spiders, the black widow and the brown recluse, that you can see here. And both of them, that venom can be problematic. Usually not deadly, but problematic. And so with the spiders, it's kind of where the fear comes in, because people really get afraid of the fact that they do eat the way they do, and that can kind of make them, well, I guess naturally afraid.
Scary.
It can make it scary. So if you look here, they're right side by side. Black widow has that red hourglass. This is the one you'll come across most often. That venom is more of a neurotoxin than a hemolytic toxin. We talked about that with snakes. The neurotoxin can affect you from a neurological standpoint. The hemolytic is a digester. It has both, but more neurotoxic. So I guess in theory it's more dangerous than the brown recluse, often called the violin spider. You see right there on its cephalothorax, head and thorax, how it looks like a little violin painted. Can you see that? Yeah, let's look close.
Yeah, I think it's so.
Yeah, it's like a little violin. So the black widow loves to be in little rock piles. So if you had like a mailbox that's towards the road and you have a drainage ditch, And in the drainage ditch, there's rocks all around. That's a great spot to find it when it's obviously dry or if the drainage ditch doesn't really drain. Anywhere where there's pile of rocks. The brown recluse, it's really, I mean, outhouses used to be a place where they would often, they love tight places. Both of them do. They like tight, cornered, niche places. Cobweb spider, the black widow. And so just like the cobweb spiders you see up in your house, these are different. They make their little cobwebs inside tight rock outcrops and things like that.
How big can the black widows get?
That's actually fairly life-size. Yeah, what it looks like. So we still have a landline here because we're in a little pit and we don't get good cell service. Every once in a while I have to go out to the box. So your landline, all your lines come into this box. It's a gray box on the side of your wall. I am very careful every time I open that box. Black widows love to get inside those boxes and have their webs in there. It's only the female you have to worry about. Famous for the female eating the male after they mate. That 90% of the time that does not happen, but it does happen 10% of the time. So if you ever hear that, this is the spider we're going to be looking for today. They don't quite look like this because they're a different species, but this is a fishing spider. If you've been in camp before, this one with the legs, it's about the size of the lid, some of them, along Catlet's Branch. Huge, big spiders. Yeah. All right, so get back to the last characteristics. They're essential in pollination of human foods. Without our arthropods, we would not have the food plants. Well, you could have the plant, but you wouldn't have the food because they do the pollination. They're invaluable, so valuable to our existence. Kingdom Animalia, phylum Arthropoda, subphylum Chelicerata, that's the arachnids. Arachnids, spiders, it has, and you can see with the black widow, cephalothorax, abdomen. Head thorax, where all the legs are attached, abdomen. And it has a thin pedicel, a waist between the two. When you get into ticks and mites, they have a cephalothorax too, but you no longer see a clear separation, do you? They're fused, so you don't see that pedicel, that waist. So slightly different. Of course, these, do they feed on insects or do they feed on blood? The blood of us mammals. So we don't really like the ticks and the mites. Ticks we've talked about from the beginning when we're outside the first day, every time, 365 days a year. You must check yourself for ticks. What do I do with my family every night before they go to bed? Tick check. You have to. They're everywhere. They're out all year long, and they do spread diseases like Lyme disease and other things. Mites, not so much. We don't have to worry about it. But this red velvet mite that you see here, sometimes you see it running on a sidewalk, running on pavement, running on a rock. Mites cause what we call chiggers. So when we took the group picture and I said, chiggers and ticks, you know what the chigger is? When these things are tiny, they hatch egg, and then they really go through like different insects, which we'll get to in a minute. They just go through stages of growing bigger as they molt. So they're really like an egg and nymph to an adult when they're ready to breed. So when they're really, really small, guess what? You do not notice them. They're total teeny. And when you walk through high grass, the little teeny things get on you and they crawl around and they probe you with their proboscis. And guess what? You taste. They don't like you. And so then their saliva comes up and it gets on your skin. And that causes a nice red, hard little bumpy itch. How many have had chiggers before? And they itch 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 and they itch. It's nothing in you, it's just literally the way your skin reacts to the saliva of their proboscis. Pretty cool, eh? Anyway, and then harvestmen are your granddaddy longlegs, which everybody loves. It's actually usually the first thing that people have to hold, as far as in the arachnid family, because they don't bite you and you don't have to worry about it, and you can just grab them. They're called harvestmen because they start off real small, but then they molt and go through those stages. And so by the time you're harvesting your corn and your crops, they're huge, and everybody notices them. And then scorpions, we don't really have scorpions around here, but some of you may have them as a pet. Subphylum Crustacea. This is the fan favorite because this is what everybody likes to. How many like seafood? Shrimp. How many like crab legs? Lobster? Yes. So the Crustacea is famous for it's seafood. They all mainly live in oceans. The ones we can see under the Crustacea here are crayfish, which we've been catching all week. We'll end up in the water again today, it's your last day. And pill bugs. Pill bugs! I want to show you a pill bug. This is probably the first crustacean any of you handle. You turn over a rock, turn over a log in your house, around your house, you pick up the pill bug, and what's the pill bug do? Rolls into a ball. Pill bugs are not bugs, they're crustaceans. Crustaceans all came and most still live in the oceans. In the oceans, iodine is a very, copper is a very plentiful in the oceans, not so much on land. And they use copper in their circulatory system, and thus the pill bugs, in order to recycle it, they need to eat their poop. Also, when you look at the pill bugs, because they came from the ocean, but they live completely, crayfish live in water, they live completely out of water. If you look at their body plan, like a 3D image of it, they have like a wetsuit. It's like right out of Dune. I'm sure you guys read that science fiction series, Dune. It was popular when I was a little kid. Anyway, they actually carry their water with them. So they're kind of neat, more than you ever wanted to know about pill bugs. Then the Myriapodas, the centipedes and the millipedes. Centipedes and millipedes, as we get to them. Centipedes, dorsal ventrally flattened. They move very quickly. You turn over a log. Most of the centipedes we have here are orangish. When you go to grab it, guess what it does? It bites you, and it leaves a nice little permanent mark on you. Not permanent, but it seems to be there for a while, and it itches. Centipedes they eat other insects, other animals. Those you do not handle. They have 2 legs per segment on their body. Millipedes, on the other hand, are herbivores. Millipedes, like this cherry millipede, feed off of various plants. They have 4 legs on each body segment, and also more legs, and they're roundish. Millipedes, like this, have chemical defenses to keep things like birds from eating them. The cherry millipede, if we find them outside, we can pick them up, and I close my hand around it, and you give it a little shake, and you know what it does? It poops. And you know what the poop smells like? Cherries. Yeah, it smells really good. Except it tastes and is toxic, and so things do not eat it. There is one, which I don't have a picture of, that actually gives off like iodine-like substance. Anybody have a surgery? If you ever had surgery, they'll paint you orange with iodine as the last way to try to prevent infection. It used to be what we put on cuts. Now you guys have probably had bacitrine and neosporin, and it doesn't hurt, it doesn't sting. When we were growing up, they just poured iodine on it. You know what iodine felt like on a brush burn? Ah! It was brutal. Yeah, I'm telling you. Now, like you never wanted to show your parents a brush burn if you wiped out on your bike because you knew the iodine was coming. And, oh my. Well, anyway. Now the greatest and most hugest subphylum of animals on the planet, the Hexapoda, the insects. The only thing I really want to go in quickly here is we have 8 pterygoids, not winged, springtail silverfish. When you flip over a log and you see these little things with 2 tails and they spring, very primitive. That's usually what you can find around here. Subclass Pterygoda. Pterygoda, pterygodus means winged. Winged insects, that's 97% of all the species. Superorder Exopterygota. If you can get anything from insects of this lesson, this is it. Exo means incomplete metamorphosis. Metamorphosis gradual. Wings develop externally. You can actually see the wing pads. It goes egg, nymph, adults. And so when you look at an apterygotan, like mayflies, you see the little wing pads? So they look like little miniature adults. So they're incomplete. So anytime you find a young aquatic insect or something even on land that has those wing pads, you know that it is a exopterygotan. You know it doesn't go through the complete metamorphosis, so you know their adults are sort of going to look like the nymphs. It's not going to be a complete change. And that includes mayflies, dragonflies and damselflies, odonata, ephemeropteras, arthropods, grasshoppers, crickets, etc. Isopteras, termites. When we turn over logs today, termites are edible, they're delicious. You go to the tropics, you can eat them. They eat just wood. Anything that eats just wood is safe because wood does not, it's not like eating plants and has all these chemicals. And they have safe bacteria in their body that digest the wood. You go to the tropics, there's not enough of them around here to make a good meal. But you go to the tropics and there's these huge termite hives, they call them, or mounds. And you can just eat them and eat them and eat them and eat them and eat them. It tastes like smoked fish, like smoked trout. They're delicious. Anyway, termites. Hemipterum true bugs are brown marmorated stink bugs that you see all around the mountain house, probably in your house. True bugs have piercing, sucking mouth parts, but the true bugs do, like all of them, this nymphs, they go through their various stages. You'll notice sometimes that brown marmorated stink bug, they're like much smaller, but then by the time they become adults and get into your house for the winter, they're the adult size and bigger. Hemiptera or Homopterum are the aphids and leafhoppers. You don't notice aphids as much except when there's a big infestation on a tree and all of a sudden you see this white stuff. And then if you look at it, there's all these moving things feeding off the sap. That's what ladybugs, which we'll get to in a second, want to feed off of. So that's one way in which insects develop. The other is endopterygotan. Endo means inside. Metamorphosis complete. Wings develop internally. So when you start to get into those, you start to get into like the caddisflies, where is that going to look like a winged adult at all? No. Can anybody think of a famous group of endopterygotans that you probably grew at your house, maybe in an aquarium or terrarium, fed it food, and it'll what? Lepidopterans, flutterflies, and moths. They go from egg, larva, pupa to adult. Famously seen with the monarch butterfly. Oh, did I say butterfly? Oh, did I even describe that? Well, here, neuropterans, antlines. Anybody have antlines in their driveway? They make these little mounds look like volcanoes of fine sediment dust. Mm-hmm. At the bottom, you can see that antline larva and chewing mouth parts, and the ant falls into it, scrambles to try to get out, doesn't, ends up at the bottom, gets eaten up. Lace wings, dobson flies we find in the water. We may show you that today. Coleoptera, beetles, includes the ladybird beetle or the ladybugs. It also includes lightning bugs. How many have been catching lightning bugs? Yeah. Lepidopteran, flutterflies. We call lepidopterans flutterflies, and we have various campaigns here at BRMC. One campaign is I have flyers, and part of your graduation process of the Summer Naturalist Camp experience is you will be taking them, and for your weekend volunteering, you are going to go to the Walmart parking lot, and you're going to hand out flutterby pamphlets, because they've always been called butterflies. And butterflies, they don't look like butter, they don't taste like butter. It is the craziest name. But we're a conservation organization, so we don't take away letters. We just took the B from butter and put it where the FL was, and we took the FL and put it in front, and we call them flutterbys, because they have fluttering flight, and as you watch them, they flutter right by. So that is part of the camp, or part of the one brochure that you're going to be promoting this weekend at Walmart or Wegmans or anywhere else that you happen to visit. The other one is the arachnids. There's two things that you try to keep bug spray for, is you don't want to get ticks and mites, and what else don't you want? Dipterans, true flies. True flies include mosquitoes. So really your bug sprays keep away ticks and mites and mosquitoes. So rather than calling it bug spray, the other pamphlet talks about calling it a rack dip. So you will now have two promotional pieces that you will march the streets and everybody you come to and you hear bug spray, like, it's really a rack dip and it's flutter flies. Alright, glad you're on board. Trichopterans, I showed you the caddisfly, looks totally different. And then probably as far as pollinators and as far as fear of being stung, the hymenopterans are the most famous, which includes all your social insects. They're also, from an evolutionary standpoint, the last to evolve. Ants, bees, and wasps. Wasps are the ones that can sting and sting and sting and sting. So when we avoid yellow jackets and talk about yellow jackets out there and try to stay in the stream and not on the edges of the stream, it's because if you disturb a yellow jacket hive, which is a type of wasp, they get on you and they do not stop stinging. Ding, 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 ding. Where a bee, like a honeybee that we raise for honey, and we have many native bees, if they sting you, guess what happens? The stinger's left in you, they get one sting and then they cash out. So that's a big difference between those two. And let's go to the picture. The dragonfly. So this is one of the things that our last thing we're going to show you inside. We have two types of nets that we'll be using in the fields today. The first is called a flutterby net. Very lightweight, made of a very lightweight mesh. When an insect is on a wing, meaning flying, such as a dragonfly, this is the net we use. And let's say it's right on top of a microscope. Your motion in slow motion. You come through, and then you whip it shut. And guess what? They get stuck there. And then you call one of us over, either me or one of the interns, and we slowly put your net on the ground. We hold it up, and guess what all insects do that fly?
Up.
They all go up once they're in a container, or like this net. And then we take, as we're holding it up, and we can sneak this jar in, and then once we get it right to the top, guess what we do? We flip it. And guess where it goes? And then we just take the top, scooch it right over, and then we can take a good look at the dragonfly or the butterfly. The reason I show you that, and the reason we'll help you with that, is if you grab a flutterby, Lepidopteran, I didn't put the Latin, but Lepidos actually means scaly wing. And if you start holding the butterflies, guess what you do to their wings? You wipe off all the scales, and you really beat them up. So this is a way we can enjoy them, take in the beauty without actually hurting them. Dragonflies are a little more resistant. Who knows? Maybe, do we have anybody with long hair? We can tie, you can actually tie, Mikhail would be great, my daughter. We can take one of her long hairs and you can tie it to the thorax, and then you can like have a dragonfly, because the hair is super light, lighter than fishing line, and so they just fly around. We don't have to do that to torture. The last net we have, so this on the wing. What you do not do with this is what you do with this. This is called a beat net. And so when you misbehave, we beat you. Yeah. This beat net is really strong canvas. This is to go around to all the bushes and trees and go rake it through the grass. Everything that you wouldn't do with that, because you would rip it to shreds. And you go through it, and this one, you can catch everything that's not flying, but living in the grasses, living on the shrubs and the trees. And so spiders, crab spiders, leaf hoppers. In theory, we won't really see them because they're so small. Aphids. All the other things that are kind of crawling and moving around, we can catch with the beat nets. So 2 nets. Beat, butterfly, we take turns, we partner up, so you each get to use both styles of net, and we go out and have fun. Now again, this is the last day. So today, we're bringing our 2 snacks, we're bringing our lunch. We're making sure we have our water shoes because with insects, we need to get in the water and look at some of the aquatic critters. So I do have an aquatic net over in the corner that we will be using. There's another one right up against the window that's been there all week. Different style of net that we can kick up all sorts of rocks and let them float downstream and see what living things we can see in the water, which are mainly those different types of insects that we talked about. And with that being said, we'll probably come back at some point and take our test. You guys all took good notes, right? You guys are all ready for your test, ready to go. We'll award you for your green lunches. How many had green lunches all week? Very good, I'm glad, and you're gonna keep that going. All right, with that being said, we're gonna get ready to go and get outside and have some fun. Ready? Go!